Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another video. The reality of social assortative mating. And let me just talk about that. I've talked about that before, but I'm going to Professor Rom mode today. So let me see, get my little iPad here. Anyway, and this is from Wikipedia. Okay. Assortative mating, also referred to as positive assortative mating or homogamy, is a mating pattern and a form of sexual selection in which individuals with similar phenotypes or genotypes mate with one another more frequently than would be expected under a random mating pattern. A majority of phenotypes that are subject to assortative mating are body size, visual signals, e.g. color, pattern, and sexually selected traits such as crest size. The opposite of assortative is disassortative mating. Anyway, and now they talk about it mainly in, bugs, animals, and all of that. But they talk about it in humans as well. And, they'll talk about genetic assortative mating, but also, as we scroll down, they say, in addition to genetic assortative mating, humans also demonstrate patterns of assortative mating based on sociological factors as well. Sociological assortative mating is typically broken down into three categories: mate choice based on socioeconomic status, mate choice based on racial or ethnic background, and mate choice based on religious beliefs. And that's why, I've said that numerous times. I mean, you got to just look at all these other factors. It isn't just like, oh, we just grab one another. Now, we're going to look for similar. Now, I wanted to focus on social assortative mating because it's a big factor. I mean, class is major. Shout out Master Teacher BGS. He talks about class a lot. And one of the things, and I've said several times, I said, look, you got to put that class in there. You got to put the other backgrounds in there, religious and everything. And just to say, look, because I know some people, they still want to go against it, but it's been talked about in other books as well. Since I'm in Professor Rom mode, one book, he doesn't really use the term in it, but Coming Apart, The State of White America, 1960-2010 by Charles Murray. And he'll talk about it. He talks a lot about the formation of the upper class, but also lower classes and, the state of white America, particularly in white America. Yeah, for those who think, oh, I'm just sticking with just the brothers and everything. Oh, no. I'm going to put a link for that in the description box. Andrew Yang, who had ran for president and is one of the founders of new more centrist political party, the Forward Party. He touched on this in the War on Normal People. The War on Normal People, particularly how the upper classes really mate and how they come together and everything based on, and he specifically used the word assortative mating. But that's only in really one section. He was talking about a whole lot of stuff there, and I highly recommend the book. And I've thought about this because the book I've been reading recently is the 9.9%, the 9.9%, the new aristocracy that is entrenching inequality and warping our culture by Matthew Stewart. Now, this had been out for a little bit, and I went through it and everything. Just some interesting points on different things, but still, the social assortative mating. It's a reality. It's a reality. Definitely the genetic one. Definitely the genetic one. That's why people tend to mate someone who is similar to themselves. Yes, there are plenty of exceptions, but if you look at a general pattern, when you look at couples, there's a strong tendency to be similar. And then especially when you put in race and ethnic backgrounds. And yes, yeah, there's plenty of interracial, interethnic couplings, but if you're going to go with the tendency, go with the tendency. That's very important, very important. But that's one thing. But if you look at the social side, it's very much class dynamics, very much class dynamics, very much religious dynamics. And in fact, I would even say that social thing is very important. It's a strong reality. Because the books I referred to, it talked about how it was getting into how the upper classes even, might even look different. Like all of them all three books emphasize how they are staying in better physical shape. And actually, I was going to add this, I was going to use these books as a reference for the video that will be done tomorrow. But I said, you know what, this makes sense here. Because a lot of people just think things are random. Like when you see, okay, here's a good example. You have like many of these women out here. You have so many of these women say, oh, he has to be 6 figures and he has to look tall like this and, look like this and be in this shape and want me. A lot of these women will not get that. They're not the same social class. I've said several times, when men on that level, they tend to stay within their class. And not even what, like a lot of guys think, just some like pious woman or, some doormat woman, or just the typical baddie. The tendency is to get a woman on that level. The tendency for those more upper class type of men. So that woman, hey, she gonna be doing her thing too. They gonna be doing, I'm talking about the real, not a bunch of guys who came from the lower classes, got some money or got to some level. They will tend to stay in their class. But we're talking about the real masters of the universe. A lot of times, their women are working too, or have the ability to work even if she stay at home. In fact, a big thing with those classes, and in this book, the 9.9%, he started off a chapter talking about these families getting nannies. Nannies is a big deal because both parents are working. A lot of those like upper class children, they being really raised by a nanny. Shoot. In fact, even if they get them from out of town. And I first saw that because back in the mid 90s, when I was had some involvement with this subculture in DC, that it was mainly black men and nannies from women from the Netherlands, Denmark, all of that. And all of them were nannies. All of them were here as nannies. That's how big a deal that is. In fact, a girlfriend I had in college, she was from Greece. She had some nanny duties even though she was in school. But that's just the nature of it. Because people tend to stay in their classes. One, because that's what they're familiar with. That's what they're doing. Because class level, they even interact on a different thing. Or let me use another example. That whole Pookie and Ray Ray thing that's talked about within the black community. Now you got, they get theirs, and you get some guys saying, they're getting those professional women and all of that. No, they're not. Where are they going to meet at? Where are they going to meet at? They're not interacting in the same places. The only possibility is if one has a job, at that law firm, doing whatever. And that could happen. But for the most part, they're not interacting. They're not interacting because environment is very important. Now, I know some guy try to go against it. They'll say, okay, what professional environment have you worked in? What professional neighborhoods, or mostly upper middle class neighborhoods, have you lived in to know how they interact and who they're going to interact with? And I'm dead serious, because you got to understand something. One of the things is when you talk about class, you're going to have different neighborhoods, different places that they interact, different environments. They still talk of racial segregation. Okay. And you got arguments for that, but also you have economic segregation. You're not going, unless it's In most cases, you're not going to have someone lower middle class living in an upper class neighborhood. In most cases. Now, I've seen some stuff where they try to have mixed use homes where they're building, they'll get somebody in there, but for the most part, no, they're not interacting. And that's very important. That's very important. When you talk about mating, it's not just you just walk up to some woman on the street. Like you got some guys talking about approaching a woman on the street. First of all, when you're approaching her, she's assessing your class. She's assessing your background by how you dressed. You know, I'm known for talking about shoes getting your dick sucked. If you look into, depending on the neighborhood, yeah, she's gonna be like, oh, nah, he ain't from around here. Something was up with him, or something like that. But it's a reality. It's a reality. If you're gonna talk about relationships, you have to talk about class. You have to talk about these other factors, the sociological factors. Now, in the description box, I'm gonna put a link to that Wikipedia entry, but also if you're serious about it, I suggest you really research it. Also links to the 3 books that I mentioned. It's some significant difference. It's a significant difference in how people of different classes are going to relate. It's going to play a part. So, on so many levels. So anyway, that's all I have for today. No, for right now. Every now and then I slip knowing I'm going to do a car video. So anyway, that's all I have for right now. I'll get back with y'all later. Peace and blessings.